Being a non-tech founder is really difficult. Sometimes what your product team says is entirely confusing and is literally gibberish.
Your value increases when you add value to others.
Now, once I've got my business up and running, now I can actually understand being a non-tech founder, it's definitely possible to actually go ahead and build out a company and a business from ground up for building a software. So the only thing that you need to be aware of is, no, obviously you need to be strong in your suite of what you can do and what you can bring to the business. So as a founder, you'll need to have a good clarity and a vision in terms of what you're going to do for the business and how the business is actually going to proceed. So by you being able to provide that knowledge or provide that clarity, then you'll obviously have your product team or your CEO or your CFO or CTO, whoever you're working with alongside your group of people or co-founders, you'll be able to provide them the right amount of knowledge that they need to understand what is it that you require and how you want to build the organization ground up. Now, I would say as a non-tech founder, it's really, really, really difficult when you're not able to communicate in the right manner, in the right lingo to the product team because they understand things differently. What you say is definitely not the end product. So ultimately what happens is you're having to go and rework all the work that's been done. So all these issues definitely do persist and do come about. But that's completely normal because what I would say is, when you're starting as a non-tech founder, you need to take some time to actually learn or have some background research of what tools you're going to use, how is it that you're going to build the application, and what platform are you going to host it, or what cloud services are you going to use? How are you going to actually build it? Is it going to be a native mobile application? Is it going to be a web app? So there are different intricacies to understand before you actually go ahead and choose what type of product or what type of solution you're going to choose for building your product. And so as a founder, as a non-tech founder, it's particularly important to kind of speak to people, understand your needs and requirements before you go ahead and step into this. Because whatever product you choose to build and how you choose to build it can add up costs for you. So the investment required or the upfront money required for you to start your business might be much higher than you're actually thinking about if you just have a very vague idea, and it can keep increasing, and it's the small chunks that keep increasing that will increase your costs for your business and the cost that you end up paying for product development and software development. If you haven't already, please do like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification to help us grow this channel. So I want to go through a few tips as to how you can probably refine and how you can actually get clarity when you are a non-tech founder and you're starting off a business and you want to start off a software business, or you have an idea of a mobile application and you want to bring it into life. You obviously need to look at certain things and you need to do things a certain way for you to actually get it up and running and get the MVP in the market. So I'll start off by what you need to understand is identify a market and identify the need in the market for that particular product or service that you're trying to go in for. So once you've identified, this doesn't really require you to go and do extensive research on theoretical knowledge. But what I would suggest is interview people, start speaking to people just even on the road, or go to a supermarket where people are flowing in, or if you are a particular product or service. For example, I'm in the edtech space. What I've done is I've actually gone into a particular university, speak to teachers, speak to students, understand what their needs and requirements are, and take things from there and understand what actually do they require, and what are the things that would make their life easier if you were to bring a product or service in this particular space. So try to get some feedback, try to look for gaps that you can actually start to fill. Once you start to focus on these gaps that you're trying to fill, then you can start validating these ideas. So if you were speaking to potential customers, then you can understand and really dive down deep and see if this particular product or service, if you brought it into the market, would it actually fit their requirements? Would it actually solve their learning needs? Would it actually solve what they actually are wanting as a customer? Once you're sure and you've validated your idea, then go into the next step of actually building a strong team. And by building a strong team, I mean, this could be in the form of finding a co-founder. And if you are a non-tech founder, I would highly, highly, highly recommend or suggest that you bring on someone who has technical expertise and knowledge. And if you're looking to build a software or a mobile application, look to actually bring someone who has the expertise of being able to program or being able to understand the facets of programming and what it requires to actually build that application. This will make things a lot simpler for you. Or even bring in a product manager who can actually ideally map out and understand the vision and the goals for the business and take things from you and is in line with you before actually going to build that particular product. Because what actually happens is when you're speaking to product teams, it's like a broken telephone game. So if you say something that you require and you want this particular feature, it turns out completely in a different way by the time it reaches the developers. So this difference can only be avoided if you really have someone in the same mindset and wavelength. So ideally have that team and plan that team with your co-founder, whether you're going to be building that in-house or whether you're going to be looking for an outsourced company. Whatever it is, try to build and work with the team. And so understand that team and make that process as slow as possible so you can really understand who is working with you, who is actually going to be on board. If you're working with an outsourced team, then understand who are their resources, what are their expertise and experiences, have they done successful launches for other businesses or other products and services. And apart from bringing experienced developers, also work on bringing on advisors and mentors who can actually give you insights and to show you what's the right way to do things and take things forward. So having people who can actually guide you and support you, and when you do have certain doubts and when you do have questions that you need to ask, always have someone who you can go to, like a coach or someone who can actually push you and show you the right way. And this could be this could be done by like reaching out to people who have been successful in this space. A lot of people are out there to help you out. So do reach out and ask for help. And obviously there will be someone or the other who will be able to give you the support or give you the vision and clarity for the things that you want to do. This next step is really vital and essential. So I wouldn't say you need to learn how to code, but being able to learn the basics of technology and what sort of technologies that you're going to implement within your business, how are you going to use that in your business, how are you going to use that for your products and services, what cloud services are you going to use, where are you going to host your mobile application. All these different things are really important for you to understand, but these basics will also make sure that you are in tune with the trends of the market and you're able to really understand what's actually happening in the business. You don't need to know every particular detail because that's why you have someone with the technical expertise there. But ideally you would want to maybe understand a bit of product development. So you could do courses on that, or you can dive down deep into reading more about it and understanding more about it so that it gives you more clarity and more confidence in the approach that you have towards your business, because you obviously have a vision and a mission to build for your business. And so with that vision and mission, being able to actually understand and learn the basics of what you're actually doing and knowing the insides out is actually going to help you and is going to be very pivotal in terms of pushing you towards success. And once you have the right team and the right people around you and the people to actually coach you and kind of drive you, then you can actually start to work on your vision and the mission for the company. How are you going to build the company? What sort of values and ethics and core values are you going to focus on? And then you focus on the business side of things, whereas how are we going to actually make money? So if this idea is very useful in this particular market, how do we monetize it? How do we bring about profits for the business? And what are we going to do? How are we going to utilize profits? So have clarity in conversations with your team. If you have a co-founder, then how are you going to register the organization, and how are you going to actually structure the organization? How are we going to deal with the profits? Are we going to reinvest? Are we going to diversify? Are we going to build multiple different products? Or how are we going to actually bring in an MVP? And once that MVP is done, how are we going to deal with those customers? So there are critical conversations that you need to have with your co-founder, and don't shy away from having these hard conversations with your co-founder, because anything early on is always better. Having all those confusion, having all those chaos in the start is better than going in head first and then failing and then deciding that no, nothing's going to work out and parting ways. The next thing I want to talk about is focusing on product development. When you're focusing on product development, don't think about all the futuristic plans and goals that you have for the organization, because obviously as a founder, and when you are starting up and when you're starting up a business for the first time and this is your little baby that you're really giving in all your time and effort, you obviously want to do the best of the best. But at the same time, focus on trying to understand what are the core implementations of like your unique selling points for your business, and have that as your MVP, minimal viable product. So that is what you will get into the market first up. So don't try to do something that is very unattainable, because you just have these wild goals and dreams of building this massive big product. Because what will happen is you'll get so overwhelmed with trying to build all these other features within the product that you will not be able to go anywhere, and you will never nail a particular feature within your product or service. Let's say you have 10 features, and out of that 10 feature, only 4 features are going to be launching on the MVP. That's completely fine, but nail those 4 features. That 4 features have to work. That 4 features have to define, and people should see the potential in your product. So ideally, you don't want to bring out an app that's fully buggy and not working, because that will derail the trust of your customers, the users, and just even investors, for example. So you want to make sure that before you go into focusing in on all the bigger features that's on the list of things that you want to do and the goals that you have for the company, you really need to nail that MVP. And while developing the product, make sure that the user flow and the UI UX, or just the way that the app looks and the way that the app feels is very customer intuitive and very friendly. So don't try to make it too complex. Obviously, in an era where we're using mobile applications and so many applications online, it's very easy to see what works and what doesn't work. So research on other apps and see what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them. How can we make it more simple? How can we actually nail it by making sure our messaging is clear, our positioning of these particular buttons are clear, the call to actions are there in the right place, and so on. So all these things need to be looked into. And try not to avoid anything just because you're trying to cut corners to make it faster into the market. So make sure that you're taking time and actually understanding, because before you go into the market is when you can do all the chipping and chopping and tests and tweaks, and then you can actually go into the market in a successful launch. Now, once you have the MVP in the market, then start looking for funding. Ideally, you don't want to start looking for funding too early, because obviously you're going to have to give, even if it is a wild, crazy idea, you'll have to give too much of your company at the start, because it's a high risk. Once you have a real good prototype or a real good MVP out in the market, and you really know that this is going to work and you're going to nail it with statistics and so on, all the details, then take it to investors and try to get people to help you out to get funding, get in your probably 50 to 100 customers who are going to be your first trial runs and your guinea pigs. Incentivize them to actually try out your product, give them offers, give them some sort of incentive to actually be on your product or service and to actually utilize it to full potential. And maybe even give it for free to a few people to understand what are their feedbacks, try to understand, use all this, because this is all investment into your future. So understand, take in and soak up all that information, because that's what's going to help you in building that next phase of that product. So that's basically your phase 2 of your product or your software. And among all this work that you're currently doing, and once you've actually worked on the product, once you're working on the funding, and once you worked on the business plan and so on, Simultaneously, I would say marketing is something that you should build up to. So don't leave marketing for way too, like, towards the end, because it will confuse, and also you wouldn't really be able to nail everything at that point within that short period of time. So work on it consistently from the start. So whether it be setting up your pages and setting up your social media channels and so on, do it from the start whilst you're in the product development phase. Start branding yourself, start putting yourself out there, start pushing out some content, that useful content that will provide some knowledge to people, get some followers, get people, friends, families to start following you, and to get you supporting on your cause and so on. So get people on that vision and mission that you have built. So that's exactly where you want to be. And then once the MVP is out into the market, obviously you can give more clarity as to showing them what the product is, giving videos and explainers about the product and service, and showing them how it actually works. And then we can start more focusing in on other things like digital marketing, SEO, branding on your website, branding on your social media channels, whether it be an ad or whether it be bringing on people to actually speak about your product and service, and then get some reviews done. So all these things can be done once you've actually have these things set up from the start. So once you have a presence set up, people are more likely to trust you, saying that, oh, okay, yeah, so they've set up and they actually have certain posts, because you don't want to be in a position where you've launched the MVP and that's the first post that you're doing in the entirety of your Instagram or your Facebook account or your LinkedIn account. So that kind of looks a bit shady. So ideally, work towards it, and work towards it step by step, and start building things simultaneously. Even if it means that you don't have all the brand colors and the brand identity focused and derived based on the colors, based on your logos and everything. Just have things done so that you can provide value to your to the people that you're going to focus on, and then from there build your presence online. And the last thing I want to talk about is legal and compliance. Make sure to actually go ahead and read on all the legalities and all the compliance that you need to follow to make sure that you're actually nailing the legal side of things, because this is really important when you're running a business. Different countries have different ways of operating, and so you want to make sure that in the business that you're doing in a particular region, you're actually compliant and you're following the rules and regulations of that particular place. So make sure to understand that, and do not avoid it and wait for a problem to strike and then you can actually solve it. Be cautious and be presumptive to actually think about it beforehand, before any issues actually pop up. Making sure you have your policy document, terms and conditions, all those things nailed down crisply in the right way on your website for all your customers and your users to actually see. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you found this useful, and I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget to like and share.